Is it weird yet? Welcome everyone to the kind of first episode of the YouTube version of Cooking with Turtle. I am your weird and lovely host, Turtle, and I'm going to try to make something today, a little bit different, some banana bread. I don't think I've made banana bread on stream before, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to try it today. I got a very lovely recipe from one of my friends, John, and we're going to try to make that today, see how it goes. And yeah, let me know how you think of this format. I'm still kind of experimenting with it since I can't really do the streams, since my Wi-Fi sucks too much. I'm going to try to do it this way. Let me know if you like it, if you hate it, and we'll figure it out from there. But let's get started. I'll tell you what you're going to need for this recipe. Alright guys, now that you have your ingredients list, we are going to get started. First, you're going to need a couple bowls and a sift. Any type of sift matters, big, small, doesn't matter, as long as you can get your flour through it. Dog! No! Alright guys, now that you have your bowls and your sift, we're going to start by sifting the flour. You can choose whether to start with the wet ingredients or you can choose to start with the dry ingredients. I usually just sift all the flour and stuff like that first, get it out of the way, get it set aside, and then I'll move over to the more wet ingredients. So we're gonna take our flour here. I just got it in a bowl. I already pre-measured it. You're gonna be using a cup and 3/4 or something like that. I mentioned it in the thing. So basically you're just gonna kind of drop that a little bit at a time. I wouldn't recommend going completely ham just because then you'll just have flour everywhere all over your counter, which is you know, I like making a mess just like, you know, the average person, but I'd rather not if I could help it. So you're just gonna sit here and sift this up. It takes a couple minutes. It's not too much flour, so it shouldn't take you too long. Basically, the gist of it, I've said this on stream before, the reason why you want to do this is because, especially with normal, regular flour, you can use cake and pastry flour, you can use regular, just, I don't know what you call it, general purpose flour. I use cake and pastry flour, but it's still good to break it up because it helps make the final product a lot more fluffy, a lot more, the texture's a lot more appealing. So I would recommend doing this if you have the extra time. So we're just gonna finish sifting the end here, and that's it. So we have our flour here all nice and sifted. It's hard for you to see, but it's all nice and sifted down there. And we're gonna add the other. I almost stepped on her. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so we're gonna add our other dry ingredients. So here we have some baking powder and some baking soda. We're gonna add that in there. You can sift this as well. Not very much, so I'm not gonna bother. And then we're gonna do half a teaspoon of salt as well. Add that in here. Alright. So now that's all done. That's your dry ingredient mix ready to go. We'll put this aside and then we'll start with the wet mix. Alright guys, now that you have your dry ingredients ready, we are ready to mix up all the wet ingredients here. The first thing we're gonna need is our butter. So what I would recommend with the butter, I would recommend taking it out of the fridge and letting it sit for maybe, I don't know, an hour or two at minimum. You want room temperature butter. That would be the kind of ideal way to go. If you have to put it in the fridge, that's fine. Just you might have to warm it up in the microwave. I don't recommend doing that as much just because I find that when you warm it up in the microwave, it doesn't tend to give us best of the texture that way. If it just manually kind of just, you know, comes to room temperature and kind of gets mushy on its own, it tends to be a little bit better. But if you're in a pinch and you gotta do it microwave style, you can do that. That's what I'm doing here. So basically, we're just gonna dump this in here. I unfortunately had to microwave mine because I don't have butter lying all over my house. Imagine that. But yeah, I would, true perfectionists will often let the butter sit and do it that way, but you know, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. So we'll put this aside for now. Now that the butter's in there, we're gonna kind of mush it up just a little bit more. Kind of get a little bit, it's pretty mushy as it is right now, but we're gonna just make sure it's completely mushed up so that it's gonna be easy to mix with the other stuff. So now that we're done that, we're gonna add our sugar. So we got our cup of sugar here. It's hard to see because it's so glaringly bright, but yeah, we're gonna add that in. We're gonna cream it together. You want to kind of have it like a fluffy consistency. If you have a mixer, like a hand mixer, I'd recommend using that. It'll go a lot faster. I'm a caveman and don't have that technology, so I gotta basically do it manually. Also, I'm sorry if I'm bumping the camera. I'm trying not to, but you know, we're going on a wild ride together, guys. That's what it is. So here we go. We're gonna mix it up, kind of. All right. So now I'm gonna bring you guys over here. So this is what it's gonna kind of look like, all nice and fluffy and whatnot. So once you're done that, you are ready for the next step. All right, guys. Now that you have your mixture all nice and mixed, it's very lightly whipped. It's kind of almost like a whipping cream kind of consistency, or it should be. Now we're going to add our bananas. So here I have 3 pretty ripened bananas. I would recommend, like, obviously they don't have to be like completely black, but as ripened as you can make them when they're still edible. Makes the banana bread a lot sweeter, a lot kind of more palatable. So I would wait until they get pretty ripe, almost as ripe as you can't use them, but they're still edible. So I'm gonna start peeling these. They're pretty squishy, so they're gonna be pretty easy to mash as well. So put these in here. Another neat trick too is if you have bananas that are about to kind of go bad, that you kind of want to keep for a little bit longer in case you want to make banana bread, but you don't know if you'll be able to make it like in time, is you can stick them in the freezer for you know, a week or so. Kind of just keep them. It'll keep them frozen, so the peels themselves might get a little bit more brown, but they'll still be usable. I just put that on the table. No big deal. But yeah, so they're still usable for a few more days if you throw them into the freezer. So that's also something you can do to try to preserve your bananas a little bit longer. But yeah, so we're gonna just put these in here. Jesus, they're so sticky and like, gross. All right, so all our bananas are in there. We'll move that over there. Looking up for Brian, the scavenger. So we're gonna try to mush these up as best as we can. Like I said, they're pretty ripe, so they should mush up pretty easily. It's like an earthquake when I did that. Sorry. So that's pretty good. So they're kind of mashed up. You can't really see them very well in there. So we'll let this sit, and then we're gonna go get our dry mix, and then we'll mix everything together. So now I have my second bowl. I have my dry mix here, and then I have my wet mix, if you will. I recommend putting the dry mix into the wet mix. It's a little bit easier that way. Some people do the opposite, but I find it's a lot messier and you lose a little bit more out of the batter if you try to put the wet stuff in the other one, whereas this you lose a little bit less. So we're gonna put it in a little bit at a time here. So we're gonna put some, we're gonna mix it, put some, mix it, and so on, so on. For the original recipe that John gave me, you actually put walnuts in it, which I would have absolutely 100% put walnuts in it because walnuts are amazing and OP and they're good. That's what I normally would have put in here, but I didn't have any walnuts, and walnuts are also extremely expensive to buy. So I'm going to forego the walnuts, and I'm going to go the route of the chocolate chips instead, just because I had extra chocolate chips over from Christmas cooking, and so might as well use them, right? So that's what I'm going to do here. Once I get this all stirred up, I'll show you guys the result. Alright guys, now the batter is nice and mixed up. There's still a couple of kind of banana pieces in there that are a little bit larger, but I got most of them kind of mushed down, and that's pretty good for me. I'm not too worried. Some people like it pureed, and that's fine, but I don't mind a few banana hunks in there. So we're going to add our chocolate here. I just have semi-sweet chocolate chips in chunks, and I'm going to add that, about a cup I guess, to the batter, and we're going to mix this all up. We got this all nice and mixed up here with our chocolate chips. And then we're gonna add it to our bread pan, which I already greased. And we're gonna throw it in the oven here very shortly. So let's get this going. All right, guys, so I have my oven preheated here from earlier at 350. I got my greased up baking, I almost just dropped that. I have my greased baking pan. Okay, I have it here ready to go. And we're going to mix up our batter and put it in here. So, side here, so now it's sitting in our pan, ready to go. You can always kind of like, I guess move it around, kind of try to get the air bubbles out. Alright, so we got that ready. So our oven's ready to go. Grab my mitts. My lovely oven mitts, which I'm surprised the dogs haven't stole yet, to be honest. And we'll put it right into the oven. Put that in there. So it's gonna cook for about an hour. I'm going to put my timer here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my timer at 30 minutes. I'm going to flip it over at 30 minutes, and then I'm going to just cook it another 30 minutes-ish. I'm going to keep an eye on it. It says approximately an hour. I would check on it about 45 minutes up to an hour, kind of roughly, depends on your oven. But we'll leave it there, and we'll see how it turns out in an hour. I'll see you then. Alright guys, let's check on it, shall we? There's a couple minutes left, but I think we're pretty good to pull it out, so let's do it. That's hot. Alright guys, look at that. That looks absolutely delicious. It smells absolutely divine as well, so I'm gonna put it to cool and then we'll see what happens. Sup, dude? Good talk.